Sammy Hagar sang with me on my Shut Up and Jam record, and instead of I went. So that was what we did that night, and they played it flawlessly. And as a young athletic whippersnapper, I was able to, from a standing leap, jump up on the piano a la Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis. I don't know who else did that. Right. I think Billy Joel did, but he used a ladder. I jumped up on the piano and I just danced. I danced my Royal Motown black ass off that night. And every time I jam with Charlie's band, and again, we talk about this all the time, John. If I'm worth jack squat, which I am, massive jack squatness is what I'm worth. It's because of the spirit and the musical geniuses that I've been able to surround myself with and collaborate with and jam with and explore musicality with. And my experiences with Charlie and his band taught me a lot, reinforcing the importance of tightness, tonation, grooves, counter rhythms. And I did a bunch of Charlie Daniels volunteer jams, and they were all phenomenal.
So what I want to ask you, Ted, is one of the things that you've always said to me is if you want to have a good day, hang around me, right? Yeah. You just surround yourself with great people. I mean, that's an amazing thing. So with Charlie Daniels, when you're playing here, here's a guy who broke through the top 40 with The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and really kind of redefined what people thought of country music at that moment. He was an ass kicker. He was a barrier breaker. He was a guy that, obviously I didn't know him personally, but as a fan, he was someone who was a true trailblazer. So this picture is something to really cherish because there are two trailblazers and ass kickers on the stage at the same time.
And I always make snide comments about my country friends.
Right. You always say, and look, when we had Tim Montana on and he kicked ass.
He kicked ass. Well, Charlie kicked ass. And that was my point, is that I tease the old-fashioned country stuff because, when you start to sing kind of down in that area, it turns me off. I mean, come on. I'd rather just have a bird chirping on the tree than listen to that crap. But when they kick ass, I love it, which is why I toured with Toby Keith. And by the way, Blake Shelton's first song he ever sang, he actually mentioned this on The Voice one night, was Cat Scratch Fever, because he was inspired. Anyhow, my point is Charlie did take a classic, believable country emotion and spirit,
right,
and he kicked it up with guitar fire. Guitar fire. I've heard some killer keyboard players, two actually, and you got to have a rhythm section that understands James Brown and Wilson Pickett, and certainly Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley. But Charlie Daniels was a pioneer because he put some fire-breathing energy even into songs that could be considered country songs. So he was a great friend. We communicated, and my experiences with him will stay with me forever.
Absolutely. So, and now here's one thing that I want to get straight, and I'm going to eventually convince you of this. There are some rock and roll musicians who aren't that good.
You think?
There's some rock and roll. All right. There are some who aren't that good. There are some country musicians who are not that good. Charlie Daniels is not one of the guys who wasn't good. He was great. Charlie Daniels was great. So God rest, rest in peace.
Here's my grandson, Jack Brocky Nugent. And Jack is like 6'4" or 6'5". He was the state champion golfer. Now, talking about samurai and focus, and also a varsity basketball star as a freshman. And Jack just graduated. So we're dedicating today and many, many days to come to Jack Brocky Nugent, who is just a great, great American man, who's a young man going to school, going to college on his basketball and his golf spiritual dedication. And so a big salute to Jack Brock. And by the way, a big salute to everybody graduating out there. And it's going to be a tough time because they're not allowed to have graduation parties. They're not having their proms and their dances. They have proms and dances. I think I went to one once.
Right.
So a big salute. But before I get to guess, we got Vic Johnson here tonight. We got a killer, one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived, and I can't wait to ask him questions about where it all came from. Vic Johnson, probably most known for putting fire in Sammy Hagar's band, but Vic is coming on in a second. But a brief moment of positive salute and a little wisdom from the old guitar player to all those young people graduating. Congratulations. Now take everything they taught you in school and question it.
That's right.
Because there's a lot of anti-education going on out there. Examine the world. Here's my most important advice I can give you. I'll synopsize here. Clean and sober. It's the only way to pursue happiness. Clean and sober. That doesn't mean you can't have a beer. That doesn't mean you can't do a little something around a controlled campfire, though you probably should.
That's right.
But clean and sober. And here's another one. Nobody owes you squat. Nobody owes you anything. You have to bust your ass. And in order to be happy, you have to earn every step up that ladder that you have to sacrifice, take risks, be that man in the arena, because you're going to fall off some of the ladder rungs and you need to get back up, and being clean and sober will fortify you. So the next time you climb that ladder, you'll get a little higher without getting a little higher. So those are my, those are my words of wisdom. And I'll summarize it like this. Sometimes you give the world the best you got and you get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you got anyway, because then you go to bed at night knowing you did your best. So congratulations to all those graduates out there.
Absolutely. Now, Ted, we have a very special guest who's willing to come on the show tonight, and I want you to set the stage because this is something amazing.
It really is. You know, I've been playing with Sammy Hagar, music that is, for probably, geez, it's got to be over 40 years, maybe even more than that. What is it, 2020? Wow, probably 45 years. And he's always surrounded himself with the greatest musicians, from the Ronnie Montroses of the world, and Chuck, the great bass player with the Montrose Band, and certainly Denny Carmassi, one of the top 1% drummers that ever walked the earth. But when you see Sammy over the years, and he's made such a mark with Sammy Hagar songs, with Montrose songs, and with Van Halen songs, in order to project and deliver a Van Halen song, because that guy's nuts. That Eddie is like, you know, I didn't believe in UFOs, but there must have been one, because that's what he got here on. When you are playing massive global hit records from the Van Halen era, where Sammy was the vocalist, I don't know if there's a more daunting, pressurizing guitar task in the world than to play the Eddie Van Halen licks so that it comes off with reverence for that musical identity. And my guest, my blood brother, my musical comrade is Vic Johnson. And I invited him on because when you hear the top guitar players in the world, they don't list Vic. And Vic is one of the top guitar players that ever walked the earth. Vic Johnson, welcome to the Spirit Campfire.
Thank you so much, Ted. Great to be here, man. Pleasure to be here.
I'm glad you figured out this Zoom stuff, but I figured if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Oh, yeah, man. First time for me, so here we go.
So what I want to start with, if I can do a little interview here, because I'm fascinated when I see you play, you know, and you get to play these monster identification songs from Montrose and from Sammy Hagar and from Van Halen. But when I watch you, I can close my eyes and I hear Ronnie Montrose. When I close my eyes, I hear the identity of Sammy's hit records. And when I close my eyes, which, by the way, I never do close my eyes, but if I were, I hear you playing these massive global Van Halen hits. Perfect. Number one, Vic, where do you come from? Where were you born, and when did you get into this?
Hey, man, I was born right where you're living at right now.
In Texas.
That's right. That's where I was born. And then I grew up over in Colorado, the Rocky Mountains. So that's where I really started playing guitar, man. And
what year were you born?
I was born in 1956. That's the first.
Just
no one knows that, but everyone knows now.
Yeah, well, that's good, man. It means you're 8
My
years
birthday's
old.
tomorrow.
You have birthday tomorrow?
Your birthday's tomorrow?
Well, happy birthday, Vic.
Hey, thank you so much.
Man. So, on a music level, when I hear you play so effectively and so emotionally and so fiery, so authoritatively, being born in Texas, I'm going to go there. So, what gives us Billy Gibbons and what gave us Stevie Ray Vaughan and what gave us Chris Duarte and what gave us all these super monster guitar beasts from Texas, born in '56, does that influence? Was it?
Oh yeah, all those people you mentioned, man. I love ZZ Top.
Yeah,
I mean, that was one of my favorite lists growing up. All those that you mentioned, but and also there's this guy, I want to mention this person, and that's David Zychek, because I knew David.
My buddy.
To find out, you knew him too.
And by the way, I don't mean to interrupt, Vic, but you know who played? Well, I hope I get through this. You know who played the guitar goodbye to David at his deathbed? I did.
You.
Yes.
That's right. I think we talked about that.
I became his spirit lifting off. I can hardly talk about it.
Man,
David Zychek was there's another name that is not mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned that. So you came from that school of hard rocking, the BB King, Albert King, Freddie King.
Yeah, man. All of that. Yeah. I saw Freddie King he opened for Grand Funk Railroad.
Oh boy.
Okay. And man, that was the first time I seen him. I was like, whoa, I didn't know what the heck it hit me, but I really enjoyed it. And I was just like, wow, man, that guy really put it down. Of course, I went back, listened to Albert King, started listening to all the blues guys, But I listened to nothing but hard rock. Other than, like, when I'd be at home, late night watching, it wasn't that many shows, but Johnny Carson. I want to see all the music that's on there, whoever the artists were going to be, whoever the band was going to be on that night. Not to mention, Doc. Doc is killing too. That band's killing,
his
right?
band, when he had Buddy Rich on, they kept right up with him, man.
Oh, absolutely. And then I find Hee Haw. I watched a lot of Hee Haw.
Roy Clark played at Gibson Birdland.
Okay. So I just wanted to see all things, because my parents, they had all the, the R&B, Marvin Gaye, all the stuff.
Killer stuff.
Franklin, James Brown, even James Brown. As much as I love James Brown, I was like, there's not enough guitar for me. I need more guitar.
Well, wait, here's James.
That's right.
I mean, but it plays an important role. So you're talking about a bunch of very diverse, eclectic, orchestrated guitar positions in music from the country and western and hee haw. By the way, here's a little tip for all my country friends out there. Hee haw, that wasn't a documentary. It was a comic. They were actually trying to be funny.
That's right.
And it was funny. I mean, I still watch the whole reruns, man. I still watch that stuff.
Hey, Vic, I got a question. Vic, I got a question for you with the hee haw era. So you're watching hee haw, and you become one of the greatest guitarists of all time. What was the first guitar solo where you just said, that is the guitar solo I have to learn? I can't go to sleep until I learn that.
Oh, man. That was so long ago. What was it? Oh,
what was it?
I didn't even start playing guitar solos like in a band until I was 17-ish. I always played rhythm guitar. Right. So I didn't play. There were 2 guitar players in our band, our little top 40 band. The other guitar player's name was Bill Gamiter. This guy just was slamming. He was like David Zychek. And his father was a teacher. And, he showed me a couple of things, but Bill, since we were in the band together, I just learned everything from him. How to solo. We would play like harmony things, like Allman Brothers. See, I wasn't really playing like solos or anything like that. So by the time I really started playing like guitar solos, I was playing like Pat Travers, like in the late 70s. See what I'm saying?
Boom, out go
So what's that?
Boom, boom, out go the lights.
Oh yeah, even before that, like Hooked on Music and all that stuff. Like it's, but I really like Pat Travers a lot, though. He was one of my guys.
So, Vic, now Ted says he doesn't study music theory. He doesn't know what a Mixolydian scale is. He's like, look, I don't know any scales. Do you know? Are you like when you approach guitar? Are you like Ted, where it's incredibly intuitive, or are you studying? Here's the scale that I'm gonna play, and then I'm gonna break the rules.
No, it's all from the heart.
Yeah,
all in the heart.
There you go.
That's the way I learned. Hey, I wasn't even allowed to take lessons. My stepfather was like, "No, you can't play guitar in the house." I had to play guitar at my buddy's house. I could not practice at my house. If I got caught practicing at my house, that was the end.
Boy, that's inspiration for some killer guitar solos right there. The defiance factor alone. No wonder you're so good.
And I would practice. I practiced even more. I went against the grain. Of course, I listened to all the Hendrix stuff. I listened to Fire. Fire was one of my first solos that I tried to play, But when I was listening to that music, there's so much multi-tracking going on. It was hard for me to really grab a hold of what exactly to listen to, because I'd hear all kinds of little things happening, left and right in those recordings, Wasn't like, these days where you, like Van Halen, is just like you got guitar, you got the bass, and you got the drums and the vocal, period. There's not a whole bunch of overdubs or anything. So when I was hearing that, even with Pat Travers, there's not a lot of overdubs, you know. But, when I listen to like Van Halen, I mean, you're going to get all the guitar right there in your face. There's not going to be a whole, even with Ted, when you do your records, there's not a bunch of overdubs, right? You might overdub a little bit, but you can really hear exactly what's going on guitar-wise,
So now making that transition from not playing solos to, at what year did you join up with Sammy?
I joined up with him in 97.
Okay, quite later on then, huh?
Yeah. Because I met Sammy just after he got in Van Halen. See, and I knew Mike from way back in 82. And I used to go see them rehearse. And his tech was my tech before he was with Van Halen. And that's Kevin Dugan. We call him Doogie. You know Doogie?
Doogie, he's the guitar god, yeah. So when you got to witness that, obviously we were all mesmerized by the uncharted territory that Eddie delved into and he created. When it was time to play with Sammy, playing those global, identifiable Van Halen guitar patterns, were you able to ever sit down with Eddie, or did you just listen to the recordings?
Nope. Every time I met Eddie, it was just once it was a kind of a okay handshake. Then after that, I never really talked to Ed. I've seen him a few times, but we never ever spoke. You know what I mean? It was so I figured it all out on my own. And when Sammy said he wanted to play those songs, because when I got the gig playing with Sammy, we weren't going to play Van Halen songs.
I know.
But in the back of my mind,
have to.
Yeah, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, we're going to have to. And I was aware of what Eddie did because I seen him. Matter of fact, I seen Van Halen. It was the second night at the California Music Festival at the Coliseum in LA, because I seen you, Ted, there, tear it up. And then the next night, they headlined. So you headlined that first. Remember, it was a 2-night deal there at the Coliseum. It's like 77, 78. I was there.
Yeah, and all the Van Halen guys came to the first night and checked out the Nugent band. Yeah, we all got together and had a great time. The Cheap Trick guys were there. It was a great
Exactly. Cheap Trick. That's right. And then the second night, Aerosmith was the headliner.
Right.
So, and Van Halen went on just before they went on. And they were having a tough time after those guys left the stage.
Oh, my God.
But it was in... Go ahead.
Yeah, no, here, Ted, listen to this. They're just, everybody that's commenting is just saying, they saw you touring with the Circle, and they're saying we saw the Circle all over the place and all over the place. So you're playing with Michael Anthony, you're playing with Jason Bonham.
Yep.
You got Sammy Hagar next to you. So when the standard by which you are being judged is an awfully high standard, and everybody here is like, Vic is the greatest guitar player of all time. So you have a standard and you leap over it. What does it feel like to know, like everyone in the audience right now is like, Vic is the greatest guitarist of all time. Vic is the greatest, like it's just going on and on and on. When you're standing on stage and like Ted was saying, I mean, you have, two of the members of Van Halen with you and you're shredding. How does that feel? Does it feel magical? Are you in a Zen state? What is that like?
It feels awesome. I mean, first of all, I really appreciate those words from everyone. But I'll tell you, when I'm up there playing those songs, I'm like into it. I'm working. And I love playing the songs, all of them. And I just borrow them. And I kind of make them my own a bit. I don't play everything exactly. I play like a couple things. Oh, you got to play that part. That's like, you got to play that song, that part. But I'll do other things. I didn't even use a tremolo bar until years later. I did everything without a tremolo bar. And people were like, oh, well, how is he doing that without a tremolo bar? Well, you just pull the heck out of the string, But I never, ever even, up until recently, I just started using a tremolo bar.
Well, regarding that one question, Vic, I've always used the term out of body. When I'm up there playing the songs that I love and they're my creations and my band is so good, what Greg and Jason and all my musicians put into every song, and certainly playing with John Bonham's son and Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony. Do you think the words out of body adequately describe the station we have? I mean,
once in a while. Yeah, I mean, once I'm up there and I'm like, man, I look over at Mike, I'm like, I'm playing with Mike. I'm playing right here with Jason Bonham. I got Sammy Hagar as my lead singer, right?
Hallelujah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and the groove is there. I feel good as long as everything's cool. And I don't fall off stage and break my leg like I did last year tour.
Did you really? Where did that happen?
That happened in L.A. We were doing a live TV broadcast. It was promotion stuff. We just got back from doing Howard Stern, and we were there, and we sound checked. The stage was like most stages, pretty high, and
except for that spot of grease over in the corner there.
Hey, I'm telling you, we were backstage. It was time to play. The lights went off. It was at NBC Studios. In Hollywood there, where the old Jay Leno show used to be. And we're ready to come out, the lights are out, and the stage is super dark. And the stairs going up to the stage were super dark. And I went out first with my guitar on, and I just made a sharp right, a little bit too far right, and I went straight down, broke my fibula, broke it.
No.
And I crashed. Dude, I was out. I was knocked out.
Wow.
I was out. And I was like, everybody was like, oh, that's it for the show. And I got everybody. And I'm like, I wake up and everyone's standing over me. And they go, Vic, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like feeling my hands and my fingers, and I go, my foot, like that. I go, my foot.
Well, my first question is, they always say the show must go on. Did the show go on?
The show did go on. They go, well, can you play? And I go, yeah, I think so, So I got up there and we played our hour and 20 minutes or whatever it was. And I barely moved.
John, that's the out of body. Now, Dave Grohl did that, I think, over in England.
Yes, he did.
And he finished the whole show in a chair. Did you do it in a chair or standing up?
I stood up the whole set, and every time I moved, I felt this. It felt like this. It felt like,
ow.
Right? So, and I couldn't, I got my pedal board. I got a couple pedals and things. Couldn't even push any of them. Oh. Couldn't do a wah-wah. Couldn't do anything. I just stood there and played, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this, but I did.
Hey, that's crazy. I've got some questions from Facebook, and I got two questions I want to link together Someone said which band did you have more fun in, the Bus Boys or Sound Barrier?
Oh man, they were both fun. I mean, Bus Boys, obviously. I mean, that was my start. You know, that was my pro start.
And you were in 48 Hours in that film. You were in the film 48 Hours, weren't you?
Yeah, with Eddie Murphy and all that. Yeah, sure enough. But
and was that crazy?
It was great, man. I mean, I hung out with Eddie. Eddie was just constantly Eddie Murphy, just crazy funny all the time.
What a great experience!
It was his first tour. It was a big tour for us to open for him. You know, it was unbelievable. And I'll tell you, man, that guy was just every night, as you know, was killing it because he was fresh off of Saturday Night Live. And we did Saturday Night Live. He actually played the little skit. You know, he actually joined the band and played a couple tunes with us on the show. And man, it was just so crazy. But Sound Barrier was a heavy band. They were heavy. You know, we were not. We were kind of a new wave at the time. You know, punk new wave kind of band. So, you know, I was like, you know, I need to play some heavy stuff. You know, I need to go over here. And I met these guys, and I would sit in with them from time to time. They just played brutal heavy stuff, and I loved playing with them. And I recorded on one of their albums. I did 2 songs on Sound Barrier. But so I don't know. You know, Bus Boys was my start, though. You know, but I like doing them. You know.
That's a good rounded experience, boy. You've been to all kinds of uncharted territory. I've always said that if my music has a lot of, you know, uniqueness and identification to it, because I've been able to play so much different music with so many different incredible musicians all my life. And it sounds like you have a well-rounded experience playing all kinds of different music as well.
Absolutely. You know, because I listen to everything. I listen, you know, back home in Colorado, even though I couldn't play it exactly the way, but I listened a lot. But I listened to Kansas, you know, I listened to Styx, I listened to all those bands too. I listened to all that stuff. But when I seen David Zajac come in with his band, I'm gonna tell you, Ted, and you know, you've been around him. That was a huge inspiration for me. That guy, I every time that they played in town, if I didn't have a gig at the other club down the street, I would be there checking him out.
All right, so everybody remember that name, David Zajac, because we lost him a couple years ago.
Yes.
With just a terrible, what I believe allegedly was a medical malpractice, but David was having a few medical complications. But there really is, I think what Vic is touching on is something we should also spotlight. And there is a musical brotherhood out there. I mean, I've been fortunate to jam with Michael Anthony and with Vic and with Sammy and Jason Bonham and some of the greatest musicians that ever walked the earth. So what Vic and I have learned, I think, is a real parallel. It's a real parallel universe of music admiration, music fascination, and then to find ourselves in the middle of the greatest musical vortex available to mankind. We don't have to play with the Stones or the Beatles.
That's right.
We don't have to play at the Motown Funk Brothers, even though that's all dreamy stuff. But what Vic has experienced, he's played with the top of the top. And I'm just so glad you were able to join us, Vic, because every time I see a list, especially from Rolling Gomer magazine, when they list the top 100 guitar players, and they got Joan Jett on there, but not Vic Johnson. I'm going, who wrote this? Some cartoon artist? So Vic, I wanted to have you on and hear your story, because every time I see you play, I just feel such a dynamo spirit of musical authority. And a vision that it's really enriched our lives. So I'm speaking for everybody. Obviously, John is monitoring these the input from our viewers right now.
Well,
and you're the greatest guitar player ever, and I just think you're the best I've ever heard.
That's nice. But then Ted, I got to play with you. Remember, I played I played 2 full, not just a couple of songs. I played 17, 16, whatever it was. We did a whole set.
Sure.
And it was the same thing. I was looking over at you. I was jamming. I was like, dang, I'm up here killing it with my man, Ted. I mean, dude, come on.
That's
amazing. I'd say.
Vic, I got a good question from Facebook here.
Sure.
Question is, have you ever played or met Vernon Reid from Living Colour?
I have. I met Vernon. Whew, that was in New York, I believe it was. He came to a gig at the Ritz, and we were playing there with the Go-Go's when they first came out. We were all new, but I believe I remember getting him in the show that night. He didn't have the band yet.
Did you call him up?
Told me, huh? No, we don't talk often or anything. I've run into him time to time, but we're not like close friends or anything like that. Matter of fact, when his band came out, I had another band called Total Eclipse, and we were a heavy metal band too. You know, we were heavy, but we mixed it up quite a bit. And we tried to get together and do shows with them, but it never did happen, you know, because we were kind of the same, you know, trip, you know. But Busboys did a show with them, and a band called Fishbone. Remember that band?
Sure, I do.
Of course.
But Vernon Reid is another example. You just don't hear his name when they list the greatest guitar players.
I don't know why you don't.
So I want to make sure that I spotlight my buddy Vic Johnson here, because I really admire what you do. And we got coming up on Thursday at the Spirit Campfire, Vic, we got Ricky Medlock. Another. And
I love Ricky. Hey, listen. Oh, hey, and that's okay. Let's back up. That's another one I listened to. No Reservations. I wore that record out with Blackfoot. Yep, I wore that out. That was the first Blackfoot record I got. I got like all of them. I got all of them. Strikes. I got all of them. Flying High. I listened to all that stuff. That band and Ricky and those guys really were inspiration to me too. And I played over and over and over and over. I played everything. There wasn't like really one band. there was several bands, you know, and I just learned their stuff and go over it. And then we finally toured with Lynyrd Skynyrd when he got in Lynyrd Skynyrd there, you know. And this is when we only played like maybe 2 weeks worth of shows because Gary Rosington had just got out of the hospital. He had heart surgery or something there, and he was on tour, and he really wasn't doing that well, and he shouldn't have been out touring, is from what I understand. And boom, man! After about 2 weeks, that was the end of the tour. But I got to talk to.
Yeah, what we're hearing from Vic, I think, is a consistent pulse of the music and the musicians that have enriched the world's lives over the years. And you're hearing about a work ethic. You're hearing about a guy that loved the music, that was motivated just to perfect his craft. And I know that you put your hours and your days and your weeks and you gave up a lot of stuff, as we all do, when we're trying to figure out this damn guitar and do stuff that either our heroes have played or that nobody's ever tried before. And you've really accomplished that. So from the Spirit Campfire Brotherhood,
thank you so much,
Vic Johnson. Thank you. Now tell us, I also want to spotlight other unheard musicians, though everybody's heard about you, but tell us about Sammy's band, where it was you and that gal bass player and that drummer. What was that drummer's name?
That was David Lauser.
Yeah, David. Again, another incredible musician. And the gal bass player?
It was Mona. We just called her Mona.
Mona. But that's another example. You've got artists out there, musicians, that are just so powerful. And in this world, especially now with this communist Chinese virus cluster crack that's going on.
Oh gosh.
I had to cancel
cluster
my
crack.
tour.
That's a new one.
Yeah, it's a cluster crack. So Vic, I got to thank you, man. Thanks for coming on the Spirit Campfire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's keep in touch, man. I'd love to get together and do some kind of jamming and maybe create some music together sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ted. My pleasure, man.
Thank you so much, Vic.
Thank you, Zoom. But that went by too quick.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, Ted, we got a gazillion questions here, especially about Vic. Here's one thing about Blackfoot that everyone keeps circling back to. If you look at the lineage of Blackfoot, of members who have been in and out, and who influenced who, it's a crazy list of musicians. What's your experience of where that intersected in the musical world, where Blackfoot really struck a chord with you?
Well, Blackfoot opened up for my tours, I'm going to say as early as early 80s. And we still play their song Train, Train before we go on stage. We play Grand Funk Railroad. Well, we play Train, Train. And then we play We're an American Band by Grand Funk Railroad. And then we play Street Fighting Man. At least that's what the way it's been the last few years. But those songs, again, I know these musicians. I know what makes Vic tick. I know what makes the Grand Funkers tick and what makes the Blackfooters tick. I know all these bands, and there is a love of music. If we heard all the greatest musicians that influenced us as we were growing up, but it wasn't enough just to dance to those guys and to maybe even learn some of their songs. We had to create our own. That's what Vic does, and that's what all these great bands, including Blackfoot, and what Ricky Medlock brought to that was a fire, man, a piss and vinegar, because he was raised on the same stuff that Vic and I was raised on.
It's crazy. That's crazy. So everybody, before we wrap it up here on the Spirit Campfire, want to make sure that we draw your attention to tednugent.com. He's got a red hat. I don't know if you've got a red hat laying around, but I got a lot of people saying, yeah, you got one of those. You got to send that out. And how does everybody get an autograph?
I'm going to have a red.
How do you get an autographed one?
Right. By the way, John, I sat in my dungeon today and I signed thousands of these hats. So if you go to tednugent.com, you get a hat that pretty much expresses those in the asset column that believe in law and order and the Constitution, all that really radical stuff.
Those who do not embrace cluster crack.
Cluster crack. Avoid the cluster crack. Dodge the cluster crack. You will only get in trouble.
Is it crap or crack? Because I heard crack.
Well, during the deer season, it would be cluster buck. If you miss the deer, that would be a cluster buck. So figure it out. Like, I can't really say shit kicker on the show, but if you're changing the bedding on the sheets on your bed and you have to kick them into the other room, you would be a sheet kicker.
Right. Well, that's he's just playing. He's punny, guy. He's punny, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, cluster crack went over big time here. And I think it's because it's a positive energy. What's amazing to me is the sales of your hat at tednugent.com are going through the roof. And it feels like every headline that gets published is an advertisement for your hat. You got to be sitting back going, all right, go to tednugent.com if you didn't like what you just read.
Well, it's a funny story. Of course, my life is one funny story after another. But I always have hangouts going all the way back to the 1960s. I don't just go to the gig and then go to the hotel and order room service. I hang out. I go to archery shops. I go to music stores. I get invited to a club and jam. People invite me to a barbecue. People invite me to the shooting range. So I've always been a gregarious animal. And I love the exchange and the dialogue and the yin and the yang of people who do agree and that don't agree. I mostly pursue those that don't agree because I want to hear alternative ideas and alternative opinions. And then I tell them how wrong they are. But I have meetings every night before my concerts with just hardworking, shit-kicking families, and we raise money for military and children's charities. And they pay a lot of money to hang out with me because I'm a damn riot. And I said to some of these guys, I said, I just did a benefit for a couple of Marines that lost their legs. And every time I meet with these heroes of the military, they never fail to tell me, Ted, my buddies didn't make it home. They made an oath to the U.S. Constitution, and we're really upset when we witness the apathy that people don't perform I think it's an American obligation that you need to monitor our elected employees and you need to vote your conscience because these guys died for the Constitution. They literally gave their lives for the Constitution. So I kind of scolded some of the guys that weren't registered to vote. I go, I hope you guys are registered to vote. And a couple of guys went, and I went, you're not registered. And he go, well, I've never voted. I went, you dumb son of a bitch. I said, we got to reelect that mother. And one guy said, I'd wear that hat. So I made 100 of those hats like this, and I autographed them for the upcoming, and they all sold that next afternoon. So I made another couple hundred, and all I can tell you, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we're at 35,000.
Yeah, 35,000 hats is pretty silly.
I think every one of them.
I kind of have a feeling that you're getting people buying those hats who aren't even necessarily giant fans, that it's giant fans of the president. It might be somebody who just liked the hat.
Yes.
Like it's gone beyond that now.
They really like this. And also, we keep a positive spirit. It's raining here in Texas. I get on my Facebook every day. People want to learn about hunting and shooting and archery, and they ask me what they can do. They can't afford a farm, so I literally promote this item. It's a Primos Spread and Sprout. I don't know if I can show you on my phone, but I take that. It's a proprietary seed, and I take it to ground. And I just rake out little 20, 30-foot circles. I throw this seed on the ground, and within 2 or 3 days, there's this glowing emerald island in the woods or at the edge of the field or at the edge of the swamp. And it's a product that if you want to see more wildlife, because wildlife is a good indicator of a healthy environment, if you want to see healthier and more wildlife, get some of this stuff, and you don't have to have a tractor or a plow. You just throw it on the ground, and the turkey and the deer and the squirrels and the woodchucks and the rabbits and the birds and everything comes and eats this proprietary nutritious supplement. So there's a little indicator. Also, there is a new product called Firearms Guard. If you go to firearmguard.com, it's actually singular. This is what I use. It's a natural organic product that eliminates moisture for my guitars, Vic, and for my guns. This literally it's a natural Amish organic product called firearmguard.com. It doesn't have an S on it, it's just Firearm Guard. And you put it with your guitars, your amplifiers, or your guns, anything you want to keep moisture free. And the stuff is like a miracle. It eliminates the moisture on important instruments and firearms. So there's a couple of Uncle Ted tech tips for you.
Hey, now, Ted, listen to this. Now, we have a record number of viewers tonight. And I think that if you go on any general news website, the headlines are worse than ever. And everybody's like, can't believe this program's like, people are finding us. They're saying, can't believe this program is going on. How long has it been going on for? And what's amazing is how when you keep the energy positive, when you just let people know, look, the world's okay. There are good people out there. You got somebody like Vic Johnson, right, who's still walking around spreading positive energy with his fingers and his guitar and his energy. You got someone like Ted Nugent spreading positive energy. People are like, where has this show been all this time? We're like, listen, we had to bring this show out because everybody was just so gloom and doom that you have to sit around a campfire. And Ted insisted on the name of the show, The Spirit Campfire. And if you like it, go to thespiritcampfire.com, thespiritcampfire.com. He said, listen, we're all sitting around a campfire. That's what this country is. It doesn't matter your political beliefs or your religion or whatever. We're sitting around a campfire exchanging good energy.
Yes.
So Ted,
the spirit is good.
The spirit is great. Why don't you play us? Why don't you take us out here on a little campfire song, letting everybody know how fortunate we are, how blessed we are to be alive, how incredible it is to be in this country, because it's doom and gloom right now, but not here on the Spirit Campfire.
And to maximize the positive, if your children have an injury, you got to maximize the positive by facing the injury and fixing the injury. You can't back away from the injury or it'll get worse. So we have a lot of injuries in America right now, but here's the Uncle Ted positive tech tip. First of all, I believe that we're having a lot of chaos and a lot of violence and a lot of destruction in America because of what I referenced just a moment ago, the self-inflicted curse of apathy. People don't monitor their neighborhoods. They don't monitor their elected employees, and elected employees without adequate monitoring will pass destructive, selfish, non-constitutional laws. So we're paying for that now. So my Uncle Ted tech tip to keep things positive, you need to communicate with your elected employees, your mayor, your governor, your senator, your congressman. They should know your family. They should know what you stand for, what you believe in. And after doing your duty as an American, monitoring your elected employees, please go to huntthevote.org. I'm not even going to tell you who to vote for. I don't care. That's your decision. Huntthevote.org is a program, a nonprofit, to galvanize people to think about what brings quality of life. And I think it starts with law and order. It starts with accountability. When they take our tax dollars, shouldn't they show us how they spend them? So go to huntthevote.org. I believe that the foundation of America is God, family, country, Constitution, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, individual freedoms. And if you believe in those things, please be a registered voter, a force to reckon with in this country, because the worst day in America is way better than any day anywhere else. Nobody's scrambling to get to Mexico. Nobody's scrambling to go to Canada. And I love my friends in Mexico and I love my friends in Canada. But America is the last best place. And in these times of violence and anarchy and rioting, we need to put pressure on our elected employees to demand law and order. And just on a final note, we've seen the most violent month in the history of Chicago and New York and Detroit and Seattle. It's because the good guys didn't stop the bad guys. So not only shouldn't we defund the police, and of course, all those murdered victims in Chicago this weekend was a direct result, and New York for the first time in many years, is a direct result of the good guys being told to stay back. Well, when the good guys stay back, who do you think wins? The bad guys. So the Spirit Campfire is about an American, we the people celebration of good over the bad and ugly. So we thank everybody for coming on here. I can't thank Vic enough. And I use the word enrichment. What Vic and what Billy Gibbons last week and what Tim Montana provided and all of our guests, what Mitch Ryder brought to us, and what Vic and all his music brings is an enrichment. It's a soundtrack for the quality of our lives. And we can't thank all these musicians enough. And I'm just a goofy Detroit guitar player, but I'm a fan. I love music. I love mine mostly, but I love all music. And I thank these incredible artists, their work ethic, their dedication, for bringing the music that brings such quality of life and enrichment and fun and outrage and piss and vinegar and defiance and cockiness and sexiness. I love the sexiness part. In fact, did I not perfect the sexiness? How about this? Don't you love it, Vic, when I go? Almost like a saxophone. Except when I play it, it's like a saxophone. So, John,
it's a saxophone for sure.
Thank you for helping create the Spirit Campfire, and thank you, everybody out there. I will see you all on Facebook. But remember, now more than ever, activism, participation in this hard-earned experiment in self-government will keep this country on the positive force, and it's up to we, the people, to demand that from our elected employees.
It is. So listen to me. We have so many people watching tonight. We got Mike saying he's sitting by the fire outside his legitimate campfire listening to this awesomeness. We have Darlene saying, I love you, Uncle Ted. Glad that you're in Texas and not somewhere else. We have Paul who's saying that he absolutely loves the show. This is the only show. We got Lonnie who says, this is the only show I actually watch each week. We have Don who said the reason why this campfire is spreading is because it's like the 70s again. Word of mouth is going around. And listen, if Facebook isn't going to help us, we're going to try to shut down Uncle Ted. The way to break Facebook is to hit that heart, that thumbs up, and spread the word. We'll be back this Thursday, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back with another amazing show, positive energy, right here on the Spirit Campfire.